We are absolutely delighted to have the incredibly accomplished Shivangi Shrivastava to join us on our show today. Shivangi, a proud IITG alumni and former software engineer at Qualcomm, has a wealth of experience under her belt, having held various product roles at top companies like the Swiggy and the Khatabook. Currently, she is taking the tech industry by storm as she leads the launch and the growth of new business lines at Swiggy like the Swiggy Genie and the Swiggy Mini. Shivangi is also a co-founder of her own company, Tazzo Bikes. With her impressive background and experience, Shivangi is the shining star in the tech industry, and we can't wait to hear her thoughts and insights.
Hi Shivangi, how are you?
Hi Arpan, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great as well. So we'll start off, with our first question itself, wherein we wanted to know your experience. What was it like studying at IIT Guwahati, and what are the key insights that you have learned and has helped in your career right now?
Yeah, I think the best part about IIT Guwahati was the entire atmosphere in itself, right? It doesn't feel like you're at an institute learning something. It feels like you're at a beautiful, like a summit, like a camp, and you're just there and you're just growing on your own. I think best part was obviously, apart from the studies, because I was from CS, we did all these projects, which was helpful in their own way. I think the entire culture, right? The competitive spirit that we had during, say, Manthan, for example. I talk about the girls' hostel that happens. So Manthan is our inter-hostel competition, for those who don't know, where every hostel is on their own and they compete against each other for this trophy. And then the various events like drama, dance, you name it, fashion show. And there was only one girls' hostel in IIT Guwahati then, and it was called Subansari. And we were like very few in number. And it was even less for our previous batches. Like in my batch, there were 11 girls to the entire suite of boys, right? And at least in my department. And there were like total 60 of us in my year. And this number was very less for our seniors. So in total, Subansari's strength used to be like 1/10 of the boys that hostel I used to compete with. But we used to like compete like really well. We used to do everything. So that means each person in our hostel was doing a lot of things. And things like that. I don't know, you feel at that time, arey, kaam karwa rahe, seniors, kya ho raha hai? But then it shapes you in a certain way where you're just, it's just good. I mean, you start learning these early things like leadership, collaboration, etc. I think right from those ages. I remember when I was in second, third year and the fresh batch of, juniors had come in and we had put up such a good show in dance, fashion show, you name it, right? And it was like a creepy atmosphere. So I think all these things add up, and like I think what it was that way. Great experience.
As you mentioned about Manthan, right? There were various events excluding Manthan as well, which, I think one of the events both you and me also participated in your final year, the El Chirenga Fest.
Yeah.
It was really a great experience of how, team events can be, nailed, especially learning how different people can come together and create something new. That's it. I personally feel it's also about that kind of culture building and learning at such places. I think that's something that is immense for at least for us.
Definitely. I think at that time Alcher had like a great scale. It was the biggest I would say fest in Northeast at the time, and the rock shows and whatever we did in that auditorium, the big shows were all fabulous. So it was pretty good. Yeah. The level of it was also level and scale of the event was also very nice. Yeah.
So post IIT Guwahati, I think you moved to Qualcomm, right? You did your internship as well there, if I'm not wrong. You got the PPO, right?
And then I chilled. Then I got the PPO and I started chilling. I said, yahi jayenge. Then I joined. I joined Qualcomm. I was a software developer there for around, I think, year and a half. Uske baad I started this company called Tazzo Bikes with, again, another college senior of ours. We started that in Hyderabad because at that time I was based in Hyderabad and I had not left the job then. I just started it. And then within a month or 2 months of working on it, it just became so exciting that I found my regular job very boring. And then I decided ki yaar, now I should like quit. Ho gaya, abhi yahi karna hai. And then because I was like still young, I was 22 and a half and I was like, acha, ye job chhodni hai. It's a big decision. Should I leave the job? Because I don't know what I'm getting into. I think people now are a lot more educated about startup. The only person in my group who was really into startups at that time was Swati. She was a batchmate of mine. Or koi tha nahi. Baki people were like in all those FANG companies from my department, the people that I used to have. And they actually are, most of them are still at FANG, right? And I was like, okay, I'm making this very different decision. And I called her up. I'm saying, yeah, abhi to ye Tazzo hi karna hai. She's like, oh, okay, just go and quit. That's the only way. So I got up and I went and just quit.
I actually wanted to dig deeper into this. Like, as you mentioned, you were 2022, and how easy or how difficult is that to make a transaction from, a well-paying job at Qualcomm? I'm sure the family and friends around you would be saying, "यार, काफी सही job है, ये है, वो है," and then starting up. And quitting that job. You mentioned that, yeah, you started loving what you were doing at Tazzo Bikes. I understand, but how difficult or how confusing was this question to you was?
It was definitely confusing, right? My mom and dad had different stances. My mom was like, why don't you give Tazzo more time, and when it becomes something, then you leave it. And my dad was like, go for it, because, it's okay. It's big deal is you'll find another job. So I'll tell you what happens, right? I think now that I look behind, I think in hindsight, while it was tough then, I think it was the best decision ever, because the opportunity cost when you're young is way less than as you grow up, right? Opportunity cost and the kind of responsibility, like as you grow up, you realize that your responsibilities grow. I mean, I was still young. My father had still not retired, so there was there was not like this pressure at that time compared to say now. And even now, like now I have like this gotten this courage to quit anytime that I want, because I've done this for the first time. The first time is always hard, but it's also liberating. And if you're looking to start up, the earlier that you do in your career is better. Because see, there are 90% chances that your startup is not going to work out, right? It's great if it works out. Kudos to you. Your life will change. Great for you. 90% chance. So mathematically, if you ask me, is startup the way to make money? It's not actually, right? No, but it's startup just basically prepares you for a kind of life that you would aspire for, right? You break free of all shackles. Like after doing Tazzo, when I joined like a normal job in a company, right? I felt like I had way more under my kitty to offer, than other people doing the same things, because I had seen a lot of highs and lows because of my startup experience. And I would be usually mentally strong to when tough situations in the company would arise. And that in a way helped a lot in the career advancement sense, right? And the earlier you do the startup thing, the better, because it just, it changes the way you think. It liberates you, start thinking more openly, you start thinking without any constraints, you become more you become more authority driven. You break shackles of being authority driven, and you know that everything that you have to do in your own company, you do it on your own. So that kind of liberates you in a way where you take extreme ownership. You become very independent in general. You have no problems questioning authority. You generally become a more, I would say, confident and comfortable person in your life because of the experience that you go through. And obviously, this may vary. But for me, I think while it was confusing, I'm so glad I just went ahead and did it.
Correct. And you rightly mentioned, startup teaches you a lot. Like I have not been, fortunate enough to start anything of my own, but working in startup has, helped me understand a lot of things. Plus, has prepared me for a lot of ups and downs. अब मुझे डर नहीं लगता किसी problem से.
Yeah.
ये हो जाएगा. And anything that you do with ownership, and I think that actually helps you build your persona. मतलब मुझे भी आपकी तरह लगता है कि I have a lot of things to offer in my kitty.
Correct. Early stage startup, doing a startup. Correct. I mean, all those things where you're given a lot more responsibility than you would have thought. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Post that you were into kind of product management, both at Khatabook and Swiggy, right?
So it didn't happen like Khatabook and then Swiggy. It's actually a very interesting story as to what happened after Tazzo also. Okay, so we were shutting down the company. See, Tazzo actually was this one company which found our product market fit very, very soon. We were getting a lot of consumer love, but on the same hand, it was the kind of company which would need deep pockets of funding to even reach a stage where it will start making money, or the unit economics gets to a level where you're like saying, hey, you know what, this makes sense and we can scale. And at that time, we couldn't raise that kind of amount. We did raise a couple of rounds, but the kind of commitment we need, say like a SoftBank or somebody to come in to get like a mobile funding, and we didn't make it through. And I would say in hindsight that we were also naive at runway planning, right? Hame abhi just say PM is doing another startup, the way he's planning the runway is spectacular compared to like when we did it the first time. And when we decided to shut it down because operational cost, the capital cost was just too high. And we didn't want to be in a state where, we are waiting for the funds to come and 6 months we're not paying employees salary and all that. We didn't want to get to that stage. We just decided let's just do a clean exit and not get into all that. When we decided, I was like, suddenly I felt, okay, what will I do now? I used to do this like every hour of my life because I was working 15, 16 hours in Tazzo every day. I used to sit with the business founders during the day, understand the problem, and then code the entire product over the night. And this continued for 1.5, 2 years, right? Before I hired a team and all that. So I was thinking, abhi kya karna hai? Us time pe, Swiggy had just launched in Hyderabad. It's a Bangalore-based company, just launched in Hyderabad. And I used to live in this Microsoft office ke paas ek area hai, jahan bahut sare restaurants hai. And I just used to order on Swiggy. And before I could even brush my teeth, the food used to come in the morning. And I said, hey, this is different than all the other food delivery apps that we had it out there. And I really liked them. So I thought ki ye company kuch alag kariye. इनसे कुछ बात करते हैं. So I just did nothing. I just went to LinkedIn. I messaged the founder saying कि यार मेरी company बंद हो गई है and what's happening at yours. Luckily, he knew about the company as well because we had launched in Bangalore. And I said, like I said, right, we were doing well for that time. And he said, yeah, let's speak. And then he connected to more people. And then one thing led to another. And then I went to Swiggy. I met a few people that I really liked. They ended up becoming my friends now. मुझे बहुत ही अच्छा लगा मिलके उनसे. And I said, let's go ahead and join it. So that's how Swiggy happened. And this is back in 17, when Swiggy had in total about 12 to 13, 14 PMs, not more than that. So I think that time was also lucky because the company was young. I got to wear multiple hats. I got to build a lot of things that you see now today in the product, right? So that way it was a great experience because it was like having the front seat to that journey because Swiggy used to do 2-3 lakhs order then when I joined, and now it does almost 10 times of that. So it was like a great growth journey there that way. So that's how the first product role at Swiggy happened. And most of the career I've been working at Swiggy only. It's been like in total around 5 years of total tenure at Swiggy. 3 years in the first tenure. Then I was like feeling this FOMO ki acha startup industry mein kya chal raha hai, ye wo. And then some person, Khatabook happened very randomly, okay? Some person connected me to a founder saying they want somebody to consult them on product. I said, I'm not looking for open roles and I'll just consult. And we were just talking and not even thinking of getting paid for consulting. I was like, friend ka friend hai, let's help out करके. हाँ, तो मैं गई उनके ऑफिस से मिली and वो ऐसा हो गया कि one thing led to another and they're like, just please join us as our company and let's lead product and everything. That's how it happened. I stayed there only for a year though. And then again वो थोड़ा market अलग था, मुझे इतनी फील नहीं आ रही थी B2B में, मुझे थोड़ा सा I need that kind of मुझे वो customer attention की.
Correct. आपने Tazzo Bike में भी B2C.
हाँ, मुझे एकदम addiction हो गया था वो customer feedback का, तो मुझे वो feel नहीं आ रही थी. And then I was again starting to get like क्या चल रहा है कुछ और. That's when again Harsha, my founders at Swiggy got a whiff. Yeah, I'm looking out in the market and they said कि कहीं और नहीं जाना है. They called me. They called me like for a month after that कि भाई. And then they pitched and they convinced कि अब आई जाओ. And then I came back to Swiggy. Now it's been 2 years here again.
Nice. And you are currently, leading and making new business lines for Swiggy as well. Especially both me and Saurabh, who is, my partner for AllPundits, who we both, started this off. So we are a big user of, Swiggy Genie.
Okay.
We have a lot of things that, we want to get and we use those products of yours. So it gives a, very nice feeling that it's being led by, one of our alum only while we are using it. And then you recently also launched Swiggy Mini, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, so it's more of an e-commerce kind of concept rather than a Genie or any other Instamart kind of model. ये थोड़ा अलग model आप लोगों ने design किया है. So you have been leading that as well. So multiple times आपने मतलब काफी सारे products launch किए हैं, काफी सारे products zero से बनाए हैं. तो मेरे को ये समझना था कि what are the points or aspects that you look or you want people who want to become product managers or people who want to work in product field, what should they start curating in their personal life or professional life to make sure they excel in this particular field?
If you come down to the crux of it, right, and while I can talk about many skills that you can also Google and find out answers, the crux of it is just like having a good judgment in hindsight. And that most of the new things, like just because Swiggy is like a bigger company doesn't mean that our bets will be any more successful than a startup, right? In fact, if you ask me, the failure rate is even higher because there are some, there's some drawbacks also of launching a new thing from a big company, like speed, etc. Alignment takes time. There are a bunch of things like that, right? So most of your ideas might just fail. So my first and foremost, most important thing, at least for people working in 0 to 1s, at least for people not solely responsible for launching things, who are like operating at a higher level, is that become like okay with failure, first of all. So for me, it's not like that I've launched only Genie and Minis and many other products which you don't know about because it didn't work out, right? And the good part, and that's why I like Swiggy founders as well, is that we understand that failure is a part of the process. And instead of being afraid of it, or instead of looking at it with, dismissive eyes, or, just, showing it down, we think of it like medals of honors. And we think that every failure taught us something which we would not have learned. And how do we not make the same mistakes the next time? So my biggest motto while working on something new is that, hey, I know that, this might not work because of, say, Instamart. Maybe we did something because we have some learnings. We did something in Genie because we have seen some learnings. So what's the best way then in which I could launch Minis? It might still not work, but at least my chances at success will be higher. And I know that I will be making new mistakes and not the old ones. And we'll, course correct during the day, and like we'll figure out how to, keep changing it up little by little, and pretty much forge a way to PMF. So none of these things are born with PMF. You have to pretty much forge one by one to get there. I think that judgment comes with being like this very insightful person, very insight-driven person, looking at things very keenly. And also, I think learning from the mistakes and some experience, I think. But there is no one recipe to get it right. Like I said, right? Even big companies launch a lot of new things which don't work out. So I think relationship with failure is super critical. Yeah.
So I was not planning to ask this question, and neither did I frame it earlier. But while talking to you, I got a gist of Swiggy is a very big name in the startup industry, right?
Yeah.
And how do decision making or organizational structure work at this big startups? I'm very curious to know that. That's why I asked you this question.
It differs a lot, Arpan, from company to company. I can talk about Swiggy and some other startups. So we work a lot like Amazon that way, at least for the big businesses. So even in Swiggy, we realize that you can't look at all the businesses in the same lens. So we look at our business in a very different way. So big businesses like food delivery, now Instamart. These guys are big businesses and they get a different treatment. The way they are looked at, the way they are very Amazon kind of way where we take decisions is any other big company. But when it comes to startup within the company, which is most of the things that I look at, the treatment is very different. And it's also challenging. If you ask me, is running a startup in a big organization easy? So I'll say it's pros and cons. These are pros because you're sitting distribution. You have a Swiggy brand name. It's easy to hire people for me compared to, say, if I were doing this thing alone, right? It's easy to hire. It's easy to, there are a lot of things already in place, right? And all the support services are in place. There's a big name, there's trust, there's distribution, but everything other than that is a con. You're pretty much my founders act like investors for me. And when we decide that, and it might be their idea, then also we might decide that if we have to do this, if we have to approach this sector, I have to pretty much pitch to them like a startup founder would. We created the entire set. We said, okay, this is the money that we'll put aside. Itna funding aap mujhe do. इतना मिनिमम छोटा टीम बनाऊंगी, इतने मिनिमल स्टाफिंग चाहिए, फिर भी छोटे में भी कितनी इंजीनियर्स चाहिए, how many PMs, how many engineers, how many designers, marketers, business people do we need, creating that entire plan, asking for that money from the founders, setting aside that, making sure we don't cross that budget, and how do we plan to navigate or wander to find the answers to the product market fit that we have in mind. So all that get decided, and then we sort of get started on the new initiative that we're looking at.
What I can see is, you are always looking out for, new and exciting projects. Don't you ever get burnout or feel, your creative ideas are in a rut or something of that sort? And if you
honestly, hamesha nahi hota. It's not like I'm launching 5 things at once, right? It's a little serial. It might be 1 or 2 things in parallel, but I think not more than that. 2 to 3 maybe, not more than that. So as I say, Genie is stable now. It's established business. It is a good product market fit. So Genie, I look at mostly from a business perspective. That is how do I make unit economics better? How do I make money for Swiggy in Genie, etc. The lens has changed because the product market fit is there. Whereas Minis is a new kid on the block. It's still an infant, launched just 4-5 months back. So it needs a lot of love, attention, care. So even my time, right, 80% time actually goes towards Minis because it's new. It needs those every day, a lot of hard decisions to take. Every month, a lot of things to consider that, okay, should we continue this path? Should we change that? Should we change this? So I think right now that's the truth. I'm not looking at, the third thing already. I might be looking at new things within Minis right now. So Minis humne launch kiya, hamare 10 hypotheses the. 6 or 7 of them are working. 2 or 3 of them is not working. So what do we change in the product now? So that's a question. These are the hard things so 0 to 1 is actually okay, but 1 to 10 is the harder part. where then you start looking at, okay, this part of the funnel is not working, or this part of the the what I had designed in my head, this part of the entire business equation is not working out. So we should change it. Change it to what? What will be the cost? If I change it, how will I take it to market again? What will my sellers say? What will my customers say? So then it becomes like a more of a fine tuning the thing that you have launched. So I think, yeah. So I think it's not like launching every 6 months, just to, that's like pretty much like a myth. But yes, burnout is real, can happen, irrespective. I think I just take a clean break after a few months, like every 3 to 4 months. I try to take like a 4 or 5 days, or maybe like long, like 2 weeks off, maybe travel somewhere, or just not think about work for a couple of days.
Got it. I can feel that, as you mentioned, it's like taking care of an infant or a baby while it's in initial stages.
Totally.
And so it must be exhausting, tiring, both mentally and physically. I'm sure, like having worked at various startups, I've seen multiple people feeling that. And your way is to take some time out and not think about work and move to travel places or something of that sort, right?
Also, one thing generally for people is to see, not 100% of a job would be good or boring or tough, right? There's always some sections. तुम्हारे साथ भी ऐसा होगा, there'll be 60-70% of a job that you like, 20% of the job is like, ये तो grunt work है, I don't even like it, and then there'll be 10-20% of your work where it's so stressful you like hate it. So also figuring out what are you liking, like what are the things that give you energy. So I know that parts of my job which actually make me feel happy. कि अपनी टीम से हमने बात की, हमने कोई एक्टिव प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व की, इंस्टेड ऑफ फीलिंग से टायर्ड और लो एनर्जी, आई फील एक्चुअली रिवर्स, मुझे बहुत ज्यादा एनर्जी फील होती है, वर्सेस देयर आर फ्यू थिंग्स दैट फील कि यार दिस इज द थिंग टू गेट डन. So just figuring out what are the high leverage tasks. So I think over time, what I've decided, because there's like generally so much going on, right? It's very difficult to figure out, are you wasting time on things which are less important? So your calendar pretty much becomes like a thing where you just can look at it and figure out, hey, what are the high leverage things that I have to do? And just go in the priority of leverage. Otherwise, to be honest, I could do my job. अगर मैं leverage backward नहीं सोचूंगी तो वो बहुत ही chaotic और बहुत it will start getting the better of me, which sometimes happen. If you're not in the control of your own time, if you're not in control of what's happening around you, very easy that my job could easily get better of me. But you have to just keep coming back to the point, hey, what are the high leverage activities here? मुझे वही करनी है, and then I have to figure out how to delegate and keep it going on. Yeah.
Interesting. Like you mentioned, and basically managing your time is very important. So someone who is, let's say 23, 24 right now, and has already started working, what are your tips on time management? I also personally would like to know, because I would also need it, and I think I can still manage my time in a better way. So if there are some tips that you follow, or your routines that you follow, which would help us and our audiences.
Here, one thing I believe, which might be a little contrary to most what people, I don't believe in work-life balance. See, there are times in your life when you'll have to work hard, and you should. Like when I was doing my startup or in the early days of my career, right, I used to work my ass off. I used to work not just because somebody wanted me to, but just because I wanted to learn and I just wanted to get better.
Correct. I do agree with that.
तो उस टाइम जब आप सीख रहे हो, और आपके प्राइम ईयर्स है, अगर आपने अपनी 20s में, अपने 30s में, if you don't work, when will you work? So I am also looking to a point that if this is a point when my body is capable of taking the load, and I have time, I don't have the kind of responsibilities that now are starting to come into my life, right? I should basically be working hard. And once you have reached that level where you have people to delegate, and when you are sort of becoming more of a person where most of your time is going into people management and not knowing the craft, I think then it's all these things come handy. But my only tip would be, till you reach that point, don't feel कि अच्छा अभी मैं, अगर आपको काम अच्छा लग रहा है, and if you're learning something, I mean, if you're doing grunt work, obviously be smart about it. And I know all of us are like pretty जुगाड़ू, तो हम लोग कुछ कर लेंगे उसमें. If you're learning on the job, if you feel this is something which is honing your craft, then I think you should spend the hours. There is no shortcut to hard work in a way. But after a point, I think you learn. I think now you've been in the early startup state already, Arpan. So you would also know, right, कि तुम्हें जो important काम है तुम वही करते हैं, and you know that important, urgent, do it today, and then things which are less important.
Priorities वैसे decide होती है, correct? Since you are, a leader of new initiatives for Swiggy, a brand like Swiggy, what has been the proudest moment so far? Like while I was talking to you, I could understand how proud you feel for Swiggy and the products that you roll out. Would like to dig deep into one of the few moments that you could share. And is there something that you wish to go back and do something differently, or it has been mostly smooth, during your journey?
I'll answer the first question first. Okay. So this is a time of COVID second wave, and the situation in the country, right? One of the hardest time we had as a country. And there was a lot of chaos. I actually myself was hospitalized. I had a very bad run with COVID Delta variant, and I was not well. And that's a time when most of the businesses were not operational. Even Swiggy had to pretty much tune down their deliveries, etc. And the only service which was live and kicking and basically helping people a lot was Genie. Doing almost double, triple the number of orders that we do like a normal usual day. And it felt like a country was running on Genie. So we were like sending meds to people, we were sending home food to hospitals. We were doing everything possible. And, there was one day I just got a call, and I was not well. This whole team was handling it, and then I got a call from office, just from some colleagues checking in my health. I was like, hey, what's happening? And I was not doing well at that time. I was like, hey, chal, I'm just getting. He's like, you're not well, but the business is doing pretty well. When you get a clocking like 3x orders of what you normally do. And then you open Twitter, and it was all filled with heartwarming messages in which we were able to help people in some or the other way. So I think because I was also myself in that atmosphere, and I was seeing what was happening in the hospital, the fight of beds was real. I was trying to get well, and doctor would come and put this pressure that, hey, you have to get well fast because there are some XYZ number of people waiting for the bed that you're on. So it was a weird feeling, right? It was a weird time. And just knowing that something that you've worked on is able to basically help people out was like a great feeling. And this keeps repeating, right? There were floods in Kerala at one point of time. I think Genie came in handy that time as well. So actually the real heroes are actually the delivery partners here, to be honest, who are just doing this, but just being there to be enable this, it was a, great feeling. Yeah.
About, something that you wish to do different.
Oh, there are many things, man. We launch new things.
Anything that, particularly.
Hindsight mein sab bahut aisa lagta hai. Bahut si cheezein hoti hai. I think, I don't know. Okay, we can, so there is this initiative called Daily that I launched. I don't know if many people know about it because I think we didn't scale it. It was around the home food subscription. So the hypothesis was that the people who order from Swiggy for restaurant food, but what if we were able to provide them, say, like if you're living away from home and you don't have a cook, what if we could provide you home food prepared by home chef on a subscription basis? Now, this idea sounds like okay at a get-go, and we did well. I mean, we launched a really good app. We piloted it in Gurgaon. We got some good food home chef supply. But when we start scaling it now in hindsight, you realize the idea in general is like not scalable at all, because what was happening with us is the moment we were going to home chefs and saying, okay, you now are doing 50 orders per day, but you need to increase it to 70, 80. They would not be able to do so. And they were very unreliable. Like there was this very popular home chef. She would put great food. She'd had great subscriptions, but she was like, one fine day, my son is not feeling well, so I'm not cooking. I was chopping my vegetables, my finger got cut, I'm not cooking. And then the moment you move to more professional guys, the taste is lost. And while the cost comes less, but you don't feel that home food taste. And the home chef also charge a lot more. So what was happening is the people who would be able to afford a Swiggy daily subscription would anyways, if you look at India, and because there's so much manpower, in some years he will actually keep a cook.
Correct.
So you're looking at a very tiny segment of 2-3 years in somebody's life that they might look at something like this, and that too the prices are not matching up because of that whole home chef scalability issue. So I think that was a miss, and we learned it the hard way. We did have, and when we shut down the service, we had a lot of heartwarming mails come in, because we did have like a lot of running subscriptions saying "Kyo ban kar rahe ho, hum use karte the." But I know that number is just not enough to make a big business out of it. So that's when the business also comes in. But yes. So many learnings from that time.
Nice. Like we've been seeing a lot of good startups coming up, which are led, and especially I'm working in a D2C segment. So I know a lot of startups, let's say, Sugar Cosmetics, Mama, who are actually led by women. And you are also a strong leader in tech industry. What tips would you, like to provide to the upcoming women entrepreneurs or women who wish to build their career in tech industry?
Yeah, tech or otherwise, मेरी एक ही advice होती है सारे women को, क्योंकि मैंने बहुत लोगों में देखा है, to the point that it has come. I mean, I hope it's improving now, but if I read a resume, it's very easy to tell if it's written by a man or a woman. Just because of how I don't know how underconfident they seem. They're confident, but they have a lot of self-doubt. So I've seen self-doubt सब में होता है. I'm not saying that anything that I'm saying is applying to women exclusively, But generally, again, just a trend. And I feel that women are more susceptible to self-doubt. And my only point is like, you have to get over it. And usually they are like, you can sense it in the language, the way the resumes are written, the way the feedback is written. Self-appraisal ke time pe dikh jata hai ekdam ki this is
Correct.
like.
Correct. So, sorry, I to interrupt you because I feel so connected with this particular thing because I almost lead a team of 40 people. 50-60% are women in that, and they are doing crazy work.
Yes.
Crazy work. And when I ask them to tell me कि क्या है आपका version आपके काम का, they're not, they feel so underconfident. They feel कि हमने कुछ किया ही नहीं. I keep on telling them कि भाई think from my perspective कि आपने कितना मचाया हुआ है लाइफ में, वो चीज दिख क्यों नहीं रहे हो, या why can't you say that? You know, I also feel this very highly.
मतलब कुछ अच्छा काम किया होगा तो बोलेंगे we did this, but I said no, but you did this. Why aren't you using the pronoun I?
I realized ये चीज कि अगर मैं ही उनका काम अपने एक मैन के पर्सपेक्टिव से लिखता ना, तो वो इतना मचाओ दिखता कि जो उन्होंने
मेरे टीम में दो लोग थे. There was this lady and I know that she was working circles around the other guys, man, and I felt और self appraisal में उल्टा लिखा होता और मेरा बहुत दिमाग खराब हुआ. मैंने बोला ये this is so so that's what. So I tell what happens is people, and especially women, they start second guessing themselves even before somebody else does. अगर आप खुद को ही मौका नहीं दोगे तो फिर आपको कैसे कोई मौका देगा, वो वाली बात हो जाती है. So I think that's the only advice that I have. Stop doubting yourself. Back yourself up first. बाकी सारी बातें again बहुत generic हो जाती है, वो advice हो जाती है. But this is I think where it starts. The moment you start backing yourself up first, you start giving you the credit of the work that you have done. You start being more confident. You speak up when you need to speak up. You don't become the space-saving person that wants to be liked by everybody. I think that's very important. And not just in early careers, right? I'll tell you, this problem becomes even grave as you move up the ladder. And if you, the reason is, I think it's a report, I'm forgetting the name, in which they take some 8-10 parameters and they just see how these parameters vary across genders and different other things, and how does it correspond to your growth in career. And one of the reasons why women were ranking low and also ranking low in those ladders was that they were very agreeable. So agreeableness beyond a point, I think it helps you a lot in your early to mid career, where you're agreeable, you're working hard, it works great. But there comes a point when you'll have a seat at the table and you'll have to pretty much someday bang the table and say no, or correct your bosses, or take a stand. And if you're not able to do that, your career growth will just stop there. People आपको एक order taker, follower समझेंगे. एक leader बनने के लिए you have to break free of that, that mindset of agreeability, of being that person who's liked by everyone, being that person who's face saving, जो अपने काम को भी नहीं बोल पा रहा है, ये सब आपको छोड़ना पड़ेगा. And you have to basically break free and say that, hey, this is what it is, and not care a lot about what people think. I think that's very, I would say, it will free you. Yeah.
Correct. And I think as we move up in the ladder, it's important to, put our thoughts on the table to everyone, because it's important for the company that has trusted you for that role. It's important for the other stakeholders who are working.
Like अगर मेरे बॉस मुझे कुछ बोलेंगे, जो कि स्विगी के फाउंडर्स मुझे कुछ बोलते हैं, and I do it right away, that what's my value add, right? Because
correct, yes,
they are looking at 1,000 things and I'm looking at the business that I am looking at, and I think I know more about that business than they do because I'm working on it day and night. So if I'm not pushing them back on the things that I should push back, there is just no value addition. वो तो काम मेरे टीम को ही बोल के करा ही सकते थे, right? What's even the value add of me being there? So I mean, there'll come a point when you'll have to, just get over this, back yourself up and become this non-agreeable person who's okay not being liked by others, to eventually become a leader.
Thank you, Shivangi. I think these are the questions that we had, and loved, that you agreed to do this. Anything that you want to, tell to us at AllPundits, both me and Saurabh, and all the viewers that, that we are currently having?
No, I think it's a great initiative also because generally as a community, we are not very active. Alumni, and I feel a little, I would say, FOMO about that because there's so great alumni communities that exist today in some of the alma mater, right? So I just hope that we get there, and this is one of these good steps. Where I was just today also watching the second video that we launched, right? So it just felt good to look at those people that I've known from my college days and them talking about their experiences and just how much life has changed for everybody. The moment we stepped out of those gates, right? I mean, real life sort of comes to you, and then you see the people that you were just hanging around, just having the time of your life, and they are taking up those challenges and doing something very interesting. And everybody had a very interesting story and something to take away from. So I think it's a great, lovely initiative. And hopefully, I wish I could do this in person. We're doing it online, but someday.
We will be doing it in season 2 or 3. We'll be surely traveling to, at your place. We'll
I
have
love places, man. I'll definitely.
more stories about Tazzo. We'll have both founders there.
Oh, yes, we can do that. Yes, it will be fun. Yeah.